Really hard to read this one. That's an old base, one of the monuments. There's another original base. From the old cemetery, you can see down to the new Rupert Union Cemetery. This was Thomas Riley's farm up until around the 1960s.
You know, as the project has evolved over a couple of years, and most of the people who are investing here were, I think, probably fairly kind of people who wouldn't have stood on a lot of ceremony. Would have wanted to get back to getting the work done and running the farm and living their lives. It didn't make a lot of sense to get too elaborate about things, but I think it's kind of hard to sort of say where this all started. I can relate it a little bit, you know, personally. I'm Gordon, by the way, Gordon Riley, for those who, I think I've met just about everyone here, you know, at one point or the other over the last couple of years. But as long as the cemetery's been here, we came up, my sister and I, who unfortunately can't be here today, has been quite involved in the project as well, came up in about 2011, I think it was, one summer day with another cousin, and we'd been here as kids years ago. We couldn't really remember where everything was, so we took a drive up and started at LaSalle and worked our way across, and Eileen will remember us eventually showing up in her driveway and being the wonderful person that she is. Didn't bat an eyelash at some strange people pulling into the driveway and asking questions. And I think we eventually compared a couple pictures and pulled out a picture, and Eileen said, yeah, no, we've got that picture as well. So that pretty much confirmed that it was the same family, just with the different spellings. And so Ian was kind enough at that point to point us. We'd been over to Union Cemetery and say, well, have you been to the old cemetery? And gave us the directions to come over, and we pulled over in the side of the road and saw the stones and the dame, and it looked quite interesting, and we came in and started looking at the stones, and then after a few minutes took a look and said, wow, there's more, and fought our way back through the brambles and the roses and God knows what else, and I couldn't believe how far back it went. And so I thought, wow, this is a lot bigger than it looks on the surface, and I wonder how long it's been since anyone's back there. And we obviously saw the plaque that the Mitchells had installed in the 1980s when they consolidated the stones, and it kind of stayed with us. We went back, to Ottawa at that point, and then parts further afield, and sort of said, "Well, that's quite big, and that's kind of a shame. There's probably a bunch more people buried there whose stones weren't found, that had disappeared forever, and what a shame that they're gone." And we got talking about it a lot, and then my wife Barbara was involved in heritage projects at the time, and at the idea that, well, wouldn't it be interesting to try and find out, who was buried there, and to try and go back and look, and it has also some background in archaeology and historical research in various areas, and started to poke around about it. One thing led to another, and we started to talk to Miles and Eileen and the rest of the community, and not to take too long, because pretty well everyone here was involved in it, but it evolved into really a restoration project that I think we're largely at the end of the first phase on. So we did some cleanup in the rain and a lot of hard work in the first 2 years. I think everyone first took a look at it because Barbara, as part of the project, wanted to survey the cemetery and try and determine roughly how many people there might have been here and how it was laid out, and try and some of the old bases, see if they could be matched against the existing stones, and that meant really clearing the area, because everyone will remember who's been here before, the brambles were up to here. So that a lot of hard work to get the clearing done and the sampling done, and then I think about 2 years in, we started having lunch afterwards, and it became really quite a neat little community project. People coming from further afield, and people coming from long distances, family members. Barbara put as part of this up the internet presence, and started to get people asking queries from Hawaii and Europe and Australia and all over the world. And it starts to make you think just how many people around the world trace back to this 2-acre site. It's pretty amazing. So it took a lot of work to get it uncovered, a lot of detective work on Barbara and others' part, with Linda Bardell and a lot of help from Gatineau Valley Historical Society, digging through the old church records, to the point where we started to realize, wow, there's first burials here in the 1850s. This has gone on a long time, and how many people there might have been. So it then really became this annual event, and now here we are 6 years later, when we're at a phase where I think it's pretty amazing. I think all those who were here in the early days took one look at clearing this, and that's going to take an army, it's going to take years, and yet in that first year, I think it surprised everyone just how much with the labor that we got had cleared the area, what a difference it made, and how much better it looked. There's pictures of that on the blog, and there's some video that Tracy Moore had taken. It's on there that shows all the first time. So 6 years later, we're here, community and family, to really try and put together closing off this first phase, which was to find the names of those missing and memorialize them on the obelisk, which arrived to us installed this week. With such a wet spring, couldn't do it earlier in the year, so thank you so much again to Miles and David and Mark for the logistics of getting the stone here. Just by way of a couple comments I thought was kind of interesting as I looked at this. 14% of the Canadian population identifies itself as Irish Canadian or Irish Canadian heritage. And to this day, 5.5% of residents of the province of Quebec still identify themselves as of Irish heritage. That was an interesting number to me. 1.2 million Irish immigrated to Canada between 1825 and 1970. Half of those between 1831 and 1850. And of course, some or many of them lie here in the cemetery. Some of them we know, some of them we probably still don't know, despite the records. There's those who had stones, there's those who we found in the records. You'll have a chance to see the stone earlier for those who haven't seen the images going around. Part of that research was really those who could definitely be identified as being buried here, no question, that the records show it. A number of others who would have been recorded, and for those who are interested further, talk to Barbara at the event afterwards of how the records were set up, but others will say buried in the Protestant cemetery at Machamp, or buried, some say buried at the Riley Cemetery or the cemetery on Tom Riley's property, and others will talk about simply were buried in Machamp. So there's that whole second category that, you know, they're probably buried here, but you don't actually know. And then there's another category again where it's likely. So we took very much the process of saying, if there's a chance they're buried here and we're not sure, better to record it than to not record it. So if there are some that there may be long on, and hopefully we're not laying false trails for anyone, but the records are there, and the original records of course are at GVHS for anyone else who wants to follow those. So there's many of them here of those 1.2 million people. We figure there's at best probably somewhere in the order of 150 people in the cemetery before they started moving to the Union in 1910. I mean, those who came here from Ireland those early days in the 1830s and 1840s, because most of this community was pre-famine. It came through nonetheless a lot of hardship too, I think, a lot of hardship. We just see that. You know, you can well imagine, I think, you know, arriving here in the middle 1840s, 1850s, early days, to your land, it's covered in trees and hardwood, and, you know, having to dig out something to survive the first year, how difficult that would have been. But they were sustained in many cases by family and community. And therefore I thought it's kind of fitting that as we kind of commemorate those people and those early ones, that again, they're being sustained today by largely family and community and friends. Most people here, everyone here today is either community or descended in family. So the same things that survived them and sustained them through the early days really are many of the things that as family will continue to here to sustain them at this point. So it's a pleasant place with the clearing. I've often thought that as we came up here. It's on a rise overlooking water, as cemeteries often are. And I thought it was kind of strange that as a kid I always thought that cemeteries were well maintained and in nice places, so that those in the cemetery who were interred had a great view. As illogical as that sounds to a child's mind, that kind of makes sense, right? It's a good view. If you think about it as an adult, that makes no sense because, of course, you can't see it. It's really, I mean, it's about those who come to visit. It was about making it a pleasant place for the community and for the families. It was for those who stayed behind, not for those who were in the cemetery. And again, somewhere along the way I came to understand that it was really about bringing friends and family together. Again, that's what we're doing here today. Again, we brought back the friends, the family, and the community to remember them. So we really come here today to put another marker down in memory to those who lie here. We wish to memorialize as best we can, given the records, those who are buried here. We wish to provide that record both in this place, on the stone, on the memorial, and through other means, through the internet and modern means. There is a marker, a place on the memorial for a very modern piece of a medallion that will have a QR code for those who are familiar with the idea that you can read with a mobile phone, and we'll be able to take to a website for things going forward. So it's kind of a memory both in the past and the future. But we really want to provide a record that will last through the years of those who passed their lives in this community and who came from a long way away and who rest here now for the end of time, really. So, and we want to remember them. I really do encourage you after the unveiling at one point or the other, for those who haven't had a chance, to take a look at the stone in detail and look through the names. There's a lot of familiar names, and I came up this morning before we covered it for the unveiling, and it was just interesting to go through and look at just the sheer numbers and the names, and just to read them through in the mind. It's a sense, I found, of continuity, and even from someone with a less direct link to the place in the community now than for many people who live here. It still seemed like a strong link and a strong continuity. It was very interesting having looked through the names a number of times, proofreading the list and so on, to actually see them on the stone. So I did actually want to then take a moment too, just to commemorate and thank all those who supported the project, and particularly with donations to the fundraising to get the stone to this point. So I decided I'm going to take a moment and actually read out those names, if you don't mind. Not of the ones on the stone, but of those who supported the project along the way. In no particular order, these are as supplied to me by Eileen, who administered the fundraising and the process. So I'll start with that list. Doug Scholdes, Jane and Mark Dumais, Barbara and Gordon Riley, William and Judy Riley, Cheryl Riley, Mary and Doug Riley, Doug Mann, Dorothy Mann, Miles and Evelyn Mann, James Thompson, Nancy Brooks, Cam and Pam Mitchell on behalf of the Mitchell family, the Gatineau Valley Historical Society, who was generous in both time, support, and dollars and cents, the Youth Welfare Association of Rupert and the library there, and the store, has been a very, very generous supporter of the project. Thank you very much to that. Dan McCorkle, Joan Gunnis, Heather Riley, Ian and Eileen Moore, Robert Lucy. Thanks to all of those. Without it, I have to say, when we looked at this 5 years ago, it seemed like a pretty high bar to meet, but friends and family. At this point, I'd also ask Miles to come forward and talk a little bit. I've spoken a little bit from the family side and the descendants. I'd ask Miles to come forward to talk a little bit about it from a community point of view, what it's meant to the community of Rupert, to redo this project and come forward. And then when we're done that, we'll actually do the unveiling so everyone can have a look at it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bert. That was good. I think we owe a lot of gratitude to Barb and Gordon Riley to get to initiate this project. There was I guess, in the 70s there was an attempt at restoration, and they moved all the stones to the front that were sort of falling down and then displaced. So they put them there. They planted these beautiful trees. I think we probably planted 800, but about 10% of them survived, but we planted more, so like you can see there. So I remember driving by here over the years, I said, it's too bad that this doesn't get fixed up, but like there's never any push to do it, and it was just one of those things that should be done, but nobody ever did it. So I think in 2011, Barb contacted, I guess, David Gibson and the Rupert Cemetery Board to see if we would support her master's thesis and study of the Rupert Cemetery, and to figure out who was buried here. So we were pleased to say, geez, yes, that sounds like a pretty great idea. Except Barb said there was like one small thing that she had to see the bare ground, and so that's okay. So anyway, we had a meeting, cemetery board meeting in April 2012, and before the meeting we came to the cemetery to take a look at what was involved, and we had to walk around the perimeter of the fence because with the rose bushes, the raspberry bushes, and the brambles, like we put them in tartar shreds to try and walk through the place. So we had our work cut out for us, but most of the people here, we had I think 2 work weekends, and we did it. We cut the stuff, piled it out with tarps, had Ian's tractor and dump bucket, and I think if you look back there, you'll see the Gateman's Field. You see this huge pile of debris from what was left over from the cemetery. Anyway, it was a lot of work, and anyway, Barb got to see the bare ground and got to do the study, and what she uncovered was 183 names. I think that were either confirmed or believed to be buried here, which is very surprising to us, because when you look at, there's not that many tombstones there, so it was a real eye opener for us that there was that many people there. But so what was important about Barb's research, though, was that she not only uncovered the names, but she also had recommendations in terms of a management plan, and one of the recommendations was the obelisk to commemorate the people that are working, that are buried here. And Gordon has also been very, guess has kept us going. Organized the annual workday, the first Saturday in May to maintain the cemetery and keep things going and keep it looking good. So it's, I think Gord mentioned like it's taken us a while to raise the $6,215 that it took to erect the obelisk, and for those of you who haven't seen it, I think it's well worth the money that we put into that. And Gordon has given the list of the people that donated the money. So, like on behalf of all of us, I think a big thanks to Gordon and Barbara for getting this going. You know, thank you very much. At the Rupert Carnival dinner to celebrate Canada 150, we gave a presentation of the history of Rupert, and the Gatineau Valley Historical Society provided the photos, and we went through a lot of the books that were written by the Gageys and so on about the history of Rupert. And the first settlers came from Ireland in the 1830s, and they worked really hard. Like, just look around, like all the land they cleared, you know, and they did that with an axe. And the barns they built, the houses they built, the communities, the roads, like churches, like all the infrastructure, and we owe a great deal to that. So during the history of Rupert, I talked about what the Rupert community was like back in the days. Like the settlers established a very successful farming community in the area. They organized a co-op for a cheese factory. They had the local, they built a council house to administer the municipality. There was a school and an Orange Lodge, blacksmith shop, 2 stores, 2 churches. Rupert was the meeting place for the hall and a church for church suppers, square dances, and other celebrations. And in 1962, the Gatineau Valley Horse and Cattle Association was founded with the annual fair that's still going. And in 1962, the Youth Welfare Association of Rupert was formed as the skating rink and the community hall and things like that. But that's the history of Rupert, which is the buildings, but the community is not the buildings, it's the people. And Rupert has changed a lot over the years, but the community has not changed a lot. We are fortunate that we are one of the few communities left where the people's roots trace back to the early settlers. The names of those first settlers, the Craigs, Gibsons, Johnsons, Mahans, Moores, Nesbitts, Pritchards, Rileys, Thompsons, Trouses, and Woods still live in the community today. So although the community has changed a lot over the years, the community spirit and how to work together has been passed on from generation to generation. That was the gift that the early settlers gave to us. They showed us how to organize ourselves, work and have fun together, how to be friends with your neighbors and to work with your neighbors, and how to get things done. Like Rupert always had the reputation of getting things done, as you can see here. The restoration of the cemetery today is a good example of this. When I was growing up, I was always proud of our small community. We had the most successful farmers, the best skating rink, the best fair, the parade, the best carnival, and the best community organizations. I guess I always took it for granted about how things were done in Rupert. However, when you talk to some of the people who just moved into the community and don't have the same ties to the past, they love being part of this community and the way of life that's been passed on from generation to generation. Last fall, we built the skating rink at Rupert, and we had 30 volunteers come out and spend 2 weekends of their time to do that. Mark Nesbitt was one of the guys that coordinated it, and one of the members of the Youth Welfare Association who did not grow up here said he was very privileged, proud, and honored to be part of the project. He had never been part of something like that, and he was just blown away by the community spirit, organization, and how we work together. I said, geez, you should have been here when we built the hall. Anyway, but I think those of us who live here just take that for granted, but from somebody from the outside, it's a very different thing. another person who grew up, who was new to the community, said that he used to live in a community like Rupert, but it does not exist anymore. It's been overtaken by something else. He says we really have something special here that does not exist anywhere else. So that has been the legacy that those first settlers that we are honoring. That's the legacy of those settlers that we are honoring here today. So the obelisk is a link to our past that will ensure the names of those first pioneers will not be forgotten. It's a wonderful tribute to those people. Well done, everyone.
Hard time.
So I encourage, as I say, everyone to take a moment, take a few looks at it, and then we'll gather back at the community center for potluck meal and dinner and discussion of where things go forward. It's an awful lot of work, but I think it's beautiful.
Just for a little bit of background, before we do that, we'll just talk a little bit about what it took to get this in here. Mark Nesbitt did the base, and we put it on this rock outcrop. So Mark drilled the holes into the rock and then put rebar in, and then made the cement base. And then Grace Monuments did the stone for us. And I was talking to David Gibson, and he says, you know, they're going to have a hard time getting in there, so maybe I should bring my tractor and winch. And we never ever would have got it in here without the tractor and winch. So thanks to David for doing that. The other thing too, I think David, we didn't mention in terms of the donations, is that David bought all the trees for the replanting that we did at the end of April, and we've been lucky since then because I think it's rained almost every day since we planted, so that's good for the trees. Yeah. So I just thought I'd add that.
Thank you,
Are there
David.
names on the side?
Of course, all four sides.
I wondered. I thought that doesn't look like
If you actually take a look, as you go around it, please by all means come forward. You'll see the confirmed, likely in the categories I talked about earlier. And the names will look awfully familiar.
Well, I thought you did.
No, it's they did the because they
So on this side, you'll see the early.
when they etch it, they don't etch it.
Yeah, it is.
So and it's a great spot for it. It's never going to fall.
there's another Mark. It's
There's one other stone lot that looked property back there. It's much smaller and it would not fit. Yeah.
this guy's telling me.
Yeah.
Sideways.
Maybe we'd be glad of this little cool air.
Does the stone just sit on top?
There'd be a lot of bugs otherwise. I haven't seen them this fast. But I can remember.
It's like the other side. It's like a putty material that we have there. It's like
The way to run it.
the size of the end of your.
Oh yeah.
What a good day for it.
That's the fun age, right?
Yep. And again, you're actually in the band last night. But it's also right.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. Unfortunately, it was made with something.
Yeah. We did a deal like that about 2 weeks ago.
Who's this little guy?
That's my grandson.
Oh, your grandpa. You didn't tell me that. Hi, sweetheart. So you're a man.
Everyone wants each other.
That's right. That's rare now. Very rare.
My rides even
I like that part. I just love that part. That's good because that's what you have to hold that off. And they buy you.